Hey, tonight we're going somewhere hot, loud, and profoundly uncomfortable. A place where the air sticks to your skin, the ground explodes if you step wrong, and the people around you might not come back from lunch. We're going to Vietnam. Not the postcard beaches or travel vlogs. No, this is 1968, and you're a US infantryman. Or more accurately, a terrified 19-year-old who couldn't spell Saigon a month ago, but is now expected to fight and maybe die in a country you've only seen on a map during a high school geography test you probably failed. So before we start, go ahead and dim the lights. Maybe lie back. Get comfortable, if that's even possible anymore. And if you enjoy this kind of thing, bleak, slow, historical spirals into misery, maybe hit the like button and subscribe. Or don't. Totally up to you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and how late it is. It's always strange seeing how many of us are up, avoiding sleep, and trying not to think too hard about things we can't change. Now, take a breath. You're about to land somewhere you were never meant to be. Welcome to a place where the weather hates you, the terrain lies to you, and the war doesn't care if you're on the right side. Welcome to Vietnam. And no, you wouldn't last a day. Most people barely did. You step off the plane, and the first thing that hits you isn't the noise or the smell. It's the air. It's thick, hot, and clings to your face like a wet rag soaked in motor oil. There's no breeze, no relief, just heat, humidity, and the overwhelming stench of fuel, sweat, and something vaguely rotten that you'll later learn is equal parts jungle rot and anxiety. The tarmac shimmers. Your boots stick to it with every step, like the ground's trying to hold you back for one last chance to change your mind. You don't. Mostly because no one asked what you wanted in the first place. Your uniform is new, stiff, and already too hot. The camouflage doesn't help. Nothing helps. The helmet feels like a frying pan glued to your skull. The flak vest compresses your chest like a car hugging a guardrail, and the rifle in your hand is heavier than you thought it would be. It's not sleek. It's not cool. It's just a long, oily thing you're expected to aim and fire and carry through mud, rain and jungle for the next undefined stretch of your life, or until something goes wrong, which it will. You landed in Tan Son Nhut Air Base near Saigon. The ride over was quiet. Everyone on the plane pretending not to look scared. No one making eye contact. One guy puked halfway across the Pacific. Another wouldn't stop clutching his dog tags like they were magic. You sat in the middle row. Window seat. Not that it mattered. All you saw coming in were endless green trees and some distant smoke. And now you're here. Vietnam. Technically not a war zone. Officially called a conflict. But people still die. Limbs still fly. And nobody who goes home ever really comes back the same. The sergeant barking orders on the tarmac looks like he's been here a while. He's tan in that unhealthy, leathery way. He wears his fatigue cap low, the brim shadowing a permanent squint, and he's got a cigarette that somehow stays lit in the thick air. His voice doesn't rise or fall. It's flat, dead, like he's not yelling at people anymore, just narrating their inevitable failure. He points. You walk. You're herded like cattle into the back of a deuce-and-a-half truck that smells like diesel, mildew, and fear. The ride out is bumpy. No seatbelts. No real seats either. Just a metal bench and your rucksack digging into your spine. Outside it's loud. Engines, shouting, distant thuds. You ask someone what that last sound was. They don't answer. You stop asking questions. The city blurs past. Saigon isn't what you thought. It's crowded, loud, and filled with mopeds, bicycles, and street vendors selling things that look vaguely edible, but probably aren't. Kids run alongside the truck. Some wave, some glare. You don't know which is worse. They all look way too thin. Dogs bark. A woman is yelling in Vietnamese. You realise you don't know a single word of the language. You don't even know what unit you're assigned to yet. Your orders are in your pocket, folded, damp from sweat. They crinkle when you shift. You stop shifting. Eventually, the city fades and the green begins. Trees so dense they look fake. The road turns to dirt. Then mud. Then something in between that sticks to the tyres and splashes up in your face. There's a smell out here that's worse than the airstrip. Not sharp, not rotten, just old. Like the ground itself has been fermenting since the French pulled out and decided this place wasn't worth it. Which you're beginning to suspect was a rare moment of clarity. You pass other trucks. Soldiers wave lazily. Some don't look up at all. One is just sitting there, eyes closed, hands folded like he's waiting for something that never comes. You see someone else being carried on a stretcher, but it's quick, and you tell yourself he's just twisted an ankle. You lie to yourself, and it feels strangely comforting. Eventually, you reach the firebase. It's not much. Some sandbags, a few tents, a radio tower that looks like it's held together with rust and wishful thinking. You get out. The ground squelches under your boots. Someone hands you a tin plate and says, "Chow's over there." It's 90 degrees in the shade, and you haven't eaten since Guam. You nod, walk toward the mess tent, and immediately regret it. The food is a paste. Technically it's beef stew, but it's more of a grey sludge with floating oil bubbles. You eat anyway, because you're hungry, and you already understand that comfort is a luxury you left back at the recruiting office. You sit on an ammo crate and keep your head down. No one talks much. They're either new like you, or too far gone to care. The guys who've been here a while are easy to spot. Sunken cheeks, 1,000-yard stares, the way they move like they're trying not to draw attention, even when no one's looking. When night falls, it gets worse. The bugs come out. Not just mosquitoes, though they swarm like smoke, but everything else too. Big beetles. Small beetles. Things that crawl, things that buzz, things that bite. You have repellent. It doesn't work. You light a cigarette to keep them off. The smoke helps until someone tells you to put it out unless you want to take a bullet from 600 yards by someone who doesn't care about your haircut or your passport. The heat doesn't go away at night. It just stops being direct. Now it clings to you like film wrap. You try to sleep on a cot in a tent that smells like mould and gun oil. You don't. You close your eyes, but every sound jerks you back. A twig snapping, a dog barking, someone muttering in their sleep. Then the distant thump again. Not close, not far. Just enough to keep your heart rate above resting. You stare at the ceiling and realise it's not a ceiling, just a sheet of canvas. If someone shot from above, you'd be dead before you heard it. You try not to think about that. You try not to think about anything. But the bugs don't care. They crawl into your socks, up your sleeves, across your face. You flinch, you swat. You try to stay still. It's a losing battle. At some point, you doze. You wake up sweating, covered in bites. Your neck is sore from sleeping wrong. Your back feels like it aged 40 years overnight. You're not rested, just more tired in a different way. You get up when someone shouts your name. Time to report, gear up, move out. You barely remember where you are, let alone where you're going. You clean your rifle even though it was already clean. You load magazines. You check your canteen, half full. Warm water, tastes like old metal. You drink it anyway. You'll sweat it out in 10 minutes. Your flak jacket feels heavier than yesterday. You think about leaving it behind, but someone tells you about a guy who took it off and caught a shard of shrapnel through his spine. He doesn't walk anymore. You keep it on. You're assigned to a patrol. You don't know the area. You're given a map that doesn't match the terrain. The sergeant tells you that's normal. The jungle changes. You wonder how that's possible. Then you realise it doesn't matter. You're not in charge. You just follow, walk, listen, hope. The boots they gave you don't fit right. Blisters already forming. You wrap your feet in duct tape, like someone told you, like it's a trick, passed down from suffering to suffering. It doesn't help. The mud gets in anyway. Thick, dark, like tar with a grudge. It pulls at your feet, sucks at your ankles. Every step is a fight. You step over roots, duck under branches, swat at flies that won't leave you alone. And still, somehow, you feel exposed. Like the trees are watching. Like something knows you're here. The guy next to you coughs. Someone hisses at him to shut up. Another guy lights a cigarette anyway. The sergeant doesn't stop him. He just sighs. You all keep moving. One slow, dragging foot in front of the other. Sweating. Itching. Not talking. Just breathing in the steam of your own doubt. You stop. The point man raises a fist. Everyone freezes. No sound. Just the buzz of insects and the soft drip of sweat from your chin onto the muzzle of your rifle. You wait 10 seconds. 20. Then a nod. Keep going. You never find out what you saw. Maybe nothing. Maybe a tripwire. Maybe someone watching. Just out of sight. Finger on the trigger. Waiting for the dumbest one to step wrong. You don't want to be that guy. At noon, you eat from a can. Beans and meat. Cold, greasy. Tastes like salt and sadness. You wash it down with more warm water. Flies land on your arm. You don't bother swatting them anymore. You gave up around hour 2. You think about home. Then stop. Too dangerous. Thinking about home is like reaching for a rope that isn't there. You miss, you fall, and nobody catches you. Later, a guy in your squad tells you not to drink from the river, even if your canteen runs out. Something about dead animals upstream. You nod. Make a note. Keep walking. There's still hours left in the day. Still miles to go. Still chances to screw up and never come back. And this is just your first full day in country. It doesn't get easier. You just run out of new ways to hate it. You didn't choose this. Not really. The envelope chose you. It came in the mail on a Tuesday you barely remember. You were in your parents' kitchen, eating cereal out of a chipped bowl, when your mum walked in holding it like it had teeth. White envelope, big letters. Selective service system. You knew what it meant before you opened it. Everyone did. You just hoped your name wasn't on the list. It was. You weren't drafted because you were special. You were drafted because you were available. Because your birthday landed in the wrong slot on a plastic lottery ball spun in Washington by a man in a suit who would never hold a rifle or walk point in the jungle. They called it fair. They called it random. They called it a duty. You just called it what it was, a sentence. College deferment? Not unless you were already enrolled. Medical exemption? Good luck proving it. Bone sticking out? Maybe. Asthma? Try again. Flat feet? You'll be wearing boots either way. Some guys fled to Canada. Some burned their draft cards and prayed the FBI had bigger problems. You didn't. Maybe you didn't have the guts. Maybe you had a dad who fought in Korea and wouldn't let you back in the house if you ran. Maybe you just figured you'd survive it. Everyone thinks that, right up until they don't. The Induction Centre was a grey building that smelled like Lysol, sweat and bad decisions. You stood in a line with 20 other guys who looked like they hadn't slept. You stripped to your underwear in front of strangers. A doctor with a clipboard tapped your knee and told you to cough. Another guy took your blood pressure. Someone else asked if you were mentally fit for service. You said yes, even though your hands wouldn't stop shaking. They didn't care anyway. As long as you could walk upright, follow orders and hold a gun, you were good enough. Paperwork got stamped, fingerprints taken. Someone handed you a government-issued toothbrush and said, "Congratulations, soldier." No eye contact, no welcome speech. Just the slow, grinding machinery of a country that needed warm bodies faster than it was losing them. The ride to basic was in another bus full of kids pretending not to be scared. Nobody said much. A few tried to act tough. One guy cracked a joke about Saigon brothels and got a weak laugh. You stared out the window, counting cornfields, wondering how many more of these you'd get to see before someone put your name on a different piece of paper, one with black borders and a flag folded on top. Basic training started at 5 a.m. with someone kicking your bunk and screaming words you couldn't understand. The drill sergeant was a walking throat infection with boots. He didn't say hello. He just shouted until your brain fell into line out of self-defense. You learned fast, or you got punished faster. Push-ups for breathing wrong. Running laps because someone else dropped their rifle. No talking unless spoken to. No thinking unless ordered. You got yelled at for the way you stood, the way you held your tray in the mess hall, the way you folded your socks. Every detail mattered. Not because it made sense, but because it broke you down. They didn't want you. They wanted whatever was left when you got stripped away. Your uniform showed up in a box. Olive drab, 2 sizes too big, smelled like mothballs and regrets. You wore it anyway. Boots took a week to break in, and another week to stop bleeding through. Your M16 was cold, impersonal, and jammier than a cheap cassette deck. You cleaned it every night anyway, because if it jammed out there, you were dead. They taught you how to shoot, how to march, how to stab a sandbag with a bayonet while screaming words you didn't mean. They told you to imagine it was the enemy. You didn't know what the enemy looked like, but you pretended. Everyone pretended. That's how you passed inspection. Gas chamber drills were fun. They made you take off your mask inside, told you to say your name, rank, and serial number while your lungs tried to claw their way out. Your eyes burned for hours. Your uniform stank for days. They said it was important. No one said why. You learned how to dig a foxhole, how to low crawl through gravel, how to clear a jammed weapon while being screamed at by a man with a clipboard. You learned that mail from home was a privilege, not a right, that cigarettes brought you favours, that sleep was for people not being trained to die. There were no weekends, no breaks, just days blurred into more days. You counted them only because the alternative was not counting and losing track completely. One guy snapped in week 4, just stopped marching mid-drill and started crying. They pulled him out, labelled him unfit, and no one ever mentioned him again. By week 6, you stopped resisting. You shaved your head every morning without being told. You folded your underwear into perfect squares. You stopped talking back. You started calling your bed a rack and the bathroom a latrine. You started calling grown men sir. You began to understand what they meant when they said they weren't training soldiers. They were building weapons. The last week was field exercises, simulated combat, real exhaustion. You went days without sleep, carried a pack so heavy it made your spine curve, ate cold rations in the rain, dug fighting positions in soil that fought back. They fired blanks over your head while you crawled through mud. You got good at pretending it wasn't terrifying. You got better at ignoring pain. Blisters became calluses. Bruises turned yellow and then disappeared. Your hearing started ringing after live fire drills, and it never really stopped. You learned to sleep anywhere. On rocks, on trucks, on concrete. You learned to keep one eye half open even when nothing was happening. Graduation came with zero celebration. You stood in formation while some officer gave a speech about duty, honour and sacrifice. You didn't hear most of it. You were staring at the orders in your hand. Deployment in 2 weeks. Vietnam. You went home briefly before shipping out. Your parents threw a cookout like it was summer camp. Your dad told war stories from Korea. Your mum made a pie and kept pretending her hands weren't shaking. Your girlfriend cried in the car. You said you'd write. She said she'd wait. You both knew that wasn't true. You packed in silence, folded your uniforms, cleaned your boots, labelled your duffel like it mattered. You spent the last night staring at your bedroom ceiling, trying to remember what peace felt like. It already felt like another life. The bus to the airbase was full of others like you. Shaved heads, blank stares, dog tags clinking like keys to a door you didn't want to open. You stepped onto the tarmac, squinting at the C-130 transport like it might swallow you whole. It did. The seats were hard. The air inside was colder than outside. A medic passed out motion sickness pills and earplugs. Someone behind you threw up halfway over the Pacific. The guy across from you kept fingering his Bible like it was a secret weapon. You closed your eyes and pretended you were somewhere else. The flight lasted forever. The engine noise was a constant drone, like a wasp in your ear. You didn't talk. You didn't sleep. You just waited. Somewhere over the ocean it hit you. This wasn't a movie. There was no soundtrack, no slow-mo. Just you, a uniform, a weapon, and a one-way ticket to the worst year of your life. When the wheels hit the tarmac in Saigon, you didn't cheer. No one did. You just sat up straight, adjusted your helmet, and prepared to follow whatever orders came next. Because now it was real. Because this was happening. Because the envelope came, and you opened it, and the number wasn't 0. And now you're here. Just another nameless kid in a long, grim parade. The paperwork got filed, the plane landed, and no one asked how you felt about any of it. It starts with a whistle, not the kind you hear at a ball game. This one's sharp, piercing. It cuts through your dream like a scalpel through fog. You open your eyes and immediately wish you hadn't. It's still dark out, barely morning. The kind of darkness that doesn't feel like night anymore. Just a long shadow hanging over the rest of your life. Then comes the voice. Loud. Hoarse. No pleasantries. No introduction. Just profanity at a volume that suggests the man yelling has long since ruptured something in his throat and doesn't care. He's banging on the metal frame of your bunk with a baton, because apparently sleep is a privilege you haven't earned. The yelling continues. Everyone is already moving. You swing your legs off the side and immediately land in someone else's boots. Doesn't matter. They're close enough. Nothing's clean, nothing fits, and nobody's waiting for you. Welcome to basic training. You shuffle outside into the chill or the heat, depending on the season. Either way, the discomfort is immediate and non-negotiable. You're in your government-issued t-shirt and shorts, standing in a crooked line with 30 other confused, barely conscious teenagers who look like they all aged 5 years overnight. The drill instructor walks in front of the line, eyes like knives, voice like a landslide, telling you how worthless you are, how your mother should be refunded, how your stance offends him. You don't respond. That's the first thing they told you. You don't speak unless spoken to, and even then, your only response is, "Yes, drill sergeant." You'll say that a lot. At first, it feels like a punchline. Later, it's a reflex. The first run is long, not a jog, not a warm-up. A full-on punishment disguised as exercise. Your lungs burn by the first mile, your legs scream by the second. By the third, you're hallucinating what it might feel like to be hit by a car just to stop. But you keep moving. Because the guy who stopped yesterday is now on latrine duty for the foreseeable future, and no one's seen him smile since. Then come the push-ups, sit-ups, squats. Repeat. Your arms shake. Your shirt clings to your back like a wet rag. You think about collapsing. But someone already tried that this morning, and the sergeant made him do jumping jacks until he threw up. Then made him clean it up with his shirt. After PT, you get 10 minutes to shower. That's a lie. You get 2, and you share the space with everyone else. No privacy, no warm water, just a rust-stained tile floor, a bar of soap older than some of the guys here, and the vague hope that no one decides to haze you today. You towel off with a piece of cloth thinner than your patience, and get into uniform while your skin's still damp. Everything is damp, even the dry things. Breakfast isn't hot. It's edible. Barely. Scrambled eggs that look like insulation foam. Sausage links that bounce when dropped. You get powdered eggs, toast with no butter, and coffee that smells like melted pennies. You eat anyway, because it's the only meal that won't come with a side of yelling. Then it's drills. Marching in formation. Left, right, left. Again, again. Not in step? That's more push-ups. Turned your head? Push-ups. Didn't yell, "Yes, drill sergeant," with enough enthusiasm. Push-ups and verbal annihilation. They don't teach you how to walk. They teach you how to move like part of a machine. Independent thought gets replaced with muscle memory and fear. They teach you to clean your weapon over and over. Strip it down. Oil it. Reassemble it. Faster. Better. Again. You do this on a concrete floor under flickering lights, with hands still blistered from yesterday's obstacle course. You get it wrong, you do it again. You get it right, you do it again anyway. The weapon isn't a tool. It's a limb you weren't born with and now can't live without. Shooting range days are worse. The earplugs don't help. The rifles kick harder than you expect. The first time you miss the target, the sergeant leans in close enough to fog your glasses and tells you that if you miss in Vietnam, the guy who dies won't be the one holding the gun. You don't miss after that, or at least you don't flinch when you do. The gas chamber drill happens in week 3. They tell you it's coming. That doesn't help. You walk into a small cinderblock room with a mask on. CS gas already thick in the air. Feels like dry fire in your lungs. Then they make you take the mask off. You try to say your name, rank, and serial number. You end up coughing, choking, snot pouring down your face like a faucet. Your eyes sting so badly you can't see your way out. You stumble into the sunlight, retching, face dripping, and someone yells, "Get back in line," like this is all normal. You stop asking questions by then. You just nod and move. Obstacle courses come next. Rope climbs, monkey bars, crawling under barbed wire while machine guns fire blanks overhead. There's mud everywhere. Real mud. Cold, sticky, filled with God knows what. You dive into it. Not because you want to, but because the guy behind you will crush your spine if you don't move fast enough. You belly crawl like a worm under steel mesh, and try not to think about the real bullets that'll replace the blanks in 2 months. Medical training is brief. They show you how to apply a tourniquet, inject morphine, and drag a body behind cover. The dummy doesn't scream. In Vietnam, people will. They don't tell you that part. They just hand you the supplies and move on. Night drills are hell. No lights. Just shouting, sirens, chaos. You get pulled from your bunk at 2 a.m. and ordered to gear up. You're half asleep, half naked, trying to lace up boots with fingers that won't stop shaking. You run across gravel barefoot because there's no time. You get screamed at because your helmet isn't on straight. You don't remember getting dressed. You just remember the cold, and the yelling, and the silence afterward when everyone's too tired to speak. Some guys break. Quietly. You see it in their eyes. They still follow orders, still march, still salute, but something inside flickers out. You stop asking if they're okay, because no one here is. Sundays offer no relief, just inspections. Your bed has to be made so tight a coin can bounce on it. Your boots polished until they reflect your failure. Your locker arranged in alphabetical order by the whims of someone who changes their mind every week. Miss a detail? That's cleaning toilets with a toothbrush until midnight. You write letters home when you're allowed. They never say what you want, just that you're alive, that training is hard, that you're learning a lot. You leave out the part about crying into your pillow the first week, about the kid in your unit who sleeps with a picture of his dog under his pillow, because it's the only thing that still feels real. Graduation isn't a celebration, it's a shift change. You get your orders, your new patches, and a plane ticket. The guys who made it through stand in formation while an officer recites something about honour and service. You don't hear it. You're staring at the patch on your sleeve. The one that means you're officially infantry now. The one that means you're going to Vietnam. You go on the bus without saying much. Your duffel's packed. Your weapons clean. Your spine straight. But your stomach feels like it's tied in knots with barbed wire. You sit in the back, watching the training base disappear behind trees and smoke. The guy next to you is praying. You don't stop him. Everyone's got their thing. And then you realise this was the easy part. The bus smells like diesel, sweat, and that powder they sprinkle on vomit in school cafeterias. You're not sick, yet, but you feel it behind your ribs. That slow, creeping squeeze in your chest that tells you you're about to leave everything behind, and you can't do a damn thing about it. The base fades into the rearview. The trees blur past. You grip your duffel bag so tight your knuckles go pale, like if you let go, the ground will open up and swallow you whole. Nobody talks. Nobody jokes. The guy next to you tries to light a cigarette and drops it twice. His hands are shaking so bad it takes 3 matches to get it lit. You glance over. He catches your eye, smiles without teeth, and mutters something that might be first time. You nod. He doesn't say anything else. He doesn't need to. You arrive at the airfield just before sunrise. The sky is pink and purple like it's mocking you with a postcard moment. A row of C-130s waits on the tarmac, hulking grey beasts that look like flying barns. One's already roaring to life. You hear the engines before you see the propellers. That low, vibrating growl that settles in your spine and stays there. You're herded into a line, single file, like cattle. A sergeant hands out packets, orders, deployment info, emergency contact sheets you signed weeks ago and forgot about. Now they matter. He gives you one last look. Doesn't say good luck. Doesn't say stay safe. Just says move. You climb the metal stairs into the belly of the plane. No windows, no carpet, just exposed bolts, metal ribs, red cargo netting for seats. You shove your bag under your knees and buckle into a harness that feels like it's designed to remind you you're not going anywhere. The engines scream. You don't talk. Nobody does. Helmets rest in laps. Rifles upright between knees. Boots tapping against the aluminum floor. A nervous Morse code. Takeoff isn't smooth. The whole plane shudders like it's having second thoughts. You feel it in your guts. The moment the wheels leave the ground. The moment there's no way back. The flight is long. Hours over the ocean. You don't know how many. Time bends in that metal tube. The lights are dim. And the air is dry, recycled, stale. There's no food. Just a boxed lunch that looks like it was packed by someone who actively hates you. A bologna sandwich with sweaty cheese, a bruised apple, and a cookie you could use as a weapon. You try to sleep. You can't. The seat digs into your spine. Your helmet strap scratches your neck. Your body wants rest, but your brain is too loud. It replays the moment you got your draft notice. The sound of your mum crying in the kitchen. Your dad saying, "Be a man," through clenched teeth. The feel of your girlfriend's hand slipping out of yours at the bus stop. You start wondering what'll be waiting when, if, you come back. You try not to picture someone else mowing your lawn, sitting at your dinner table, wearing your high school jacket. You fail. Everyone fails eventually. The guy across from you is reading a letter. He folds it neatly, tucks it into his breast pocket, and closes his eyes. His lips move like he's praying, but no sound comes out. Someone behind you is humming. Not a song you recognise, just a broken little tune, off-key and flat. You try not to notice. At some point, the cabin lights go red. The pilot's voice crackles through a speaker, telling you you'll be descending soon. It doesn't sound like encouragement, more like a warning. Like, if you have any last thoughts, now would be a good time to think them. You adjust your helmet, tighten your chin strap. Your hands feel swollen. You realise you haven't unclenched your fists since the plane took off. The landing is worse than takeoff. The plane drops fast, jarring, loud. You hear gear locking in. Then the tyres slam into the runway like the plane's just remembered gravity. You bounce once, twice, then roll to a stop. The ramp lowers. Blinding light pours in. And heat, not warmth, not summer breeze. This is something else entirely. A wall of hot air hits you in the face, like opening an oven door with your head inside. It smells like jet fuel, sweat, rubber, and wet vegetation. You can already feel your shirt sticking to your back. Someone mutters, "Welcome to Vietnam," and no one laughs. You step off into the brightness. The sun isn't just overhead, it's on you, melting you. Your boots hit the tarmac, and it feels like they're trying to fuse with it. The air buzzes with insects, engines, Voices yelling in 2 or 3 languages, none of which feel like they belong here. Around you, everyone looks the same. Helmets, uniforms, blank stares. Just kids with rifles, trying not to look like kids with rifles. Somewhere nearby, a helicopter lifts off in a cloud of dust and noise, the rotor wash slamming into your chest like a punch. You duck instinctively. No one told you to. Your body just does it. A corporal starts shouting names, dividing you by unit. You follow your group, clutching your gear like it's the only thing keeping you anchored to reality. You pass crates of ammo, oil drums, sandbag walls. Some guy is hosing blood off the back of a truck. You don't ask. Someone tells you this is Tanson Nut. You nod, like that means something. All it means is you're not dead yet, and that's about as much orientation as you're going to get. They stick you in a holding area. More waiting. Always more waiting. A plywood bench under a canvas tarp. The heat is still unbearable. The flies are everywhere. You swat one off your neck. Another takes its place. You stop trying. A soldier leans over and asks if this is your first tour. You say yes. He grins, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Hope you packed extra socks," he says, then walks away. Eventually a truck pulls up. Olive drab. No doors. No seat belts. The back is filled with duffel bags, helmets, bodies in motion. You climb in. The ride out to your unit is bumpy, loud, and unpleasant in ways you can't describe. Every pothole feels like it's trying to rearrange your organs. Dust coats your teeth. Sweat runs down your spine. The road disappears behind you in a cloud of red dirt and burned oil. You pass shanty towns. Kids in ragged clothes. Women balancing buckets on their heads. Men staring blankly at your convoy as it rolls through like a slow-moving threat. You see fields, water buffalo, jungle, more jungle. Then suddenly, barbed wire. Guard towers, sandbags. Welcome to the base. You climb out, so yeah, your legs barely work. Your shirt's soaked through. A lieutenant runs down a list of rules. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't wander into the jungle. Don't trust the locals too much. Don't clean your weapon over your bunk. Don't step outside the wire without someone knowing. Don't forget where you are. You nod, even though you've already forgotten half of it. He hands you a bunk assignment and tells you to get some rest, as if that's possible. You find your cot. It's metal, narrow, and smells like mildew. The mattress is thinner than your will to live. You drop your gear and sit. That's it. No welcome, no speech, no ceremony. You're here. Congratulations. You've made it all the way to Hell's waiting room. You lie back and stare at the ceiling fan as it turns in slow, lazy circles, doing nothing to move the heat. You close your eyes, but you don't sleep. You just float there, soaked in sweat, covered in grime, waiting for the next voice to yell your name and tell you where to point your gun. Because this isn't Kansas, and this sure as hell isn't over. You thought you knew what heat was. You were wrong. Vietnam doesn't have weather. It has a punishment system. You wake up soaked in sweat and somehow keep sweating all day. The air doesn't move. The breeze, when it comes, carries no relief, just more humidity, like someone breathing heavily in your face at all times. It's not even the temperature that breaks you. It's the weight of it. The moisture crawls into your uniform, your boots, your rifle. Everything is damp, all the time, and not just surface wet. Deep. Structural. Like the molecules of your bones are condensing from the inside out. Your clothes stick to you within 10 minutes of putting them on. The fabric rides up in places it shouldn't. You spend half the day trying to shift without making it obvious. It's useless. Everyone's doing the same thing. And then you realise this isn't even the worst it gets. It's just the beginning. You step outside your tent and the world is a wall of green. Not a calm postcard green. An aggressive, choking green. Plants climb over each other like they're racing to block out the sun. Vines hang low enough to slap you in the face. Trees twist into each other with no clear logic. The paths are narrow, muddy, and shaped like someone tried to build a trail with a blindfold on and a machete. You can't see more than 30 feet in any direction. Even when the jungle goes quiet, it doesn't feel empty. It just feels like it's waiting. And the bugs, Jesus, the bugs are relentless. Mosquitoes by the thousands, so thick they form a visible cloud around you. You wear repellent, it doesn't matter. They bite through your socks, through your shirt, through your skin if you stand still for more than 10 seconds. The itching becomes permanent background noise, like tinnitus for your flesh. You stop scratching. There's no point. All you do is spread the swelling. Then there are the other things. Leeches that latch onto your legs the moment you step into water. You don't even feel them at first. Just a strange tightness around your calf. By the time you check, it's already fat and bloated, hanging off your skin like it belongs there. You rip it off. It bleeds a lot. You press gauze against it and wonder how something that small can drink that much of you without a sound. You learn to check your boots every morning before putting them on. Spiders, scorpions, the occasional centipede, long and fast and always angry. You slap the boots against the ground, then shake them, then stare into them like you're looking for signs of betrayal. And still, somehow, you miss one. You feel it halfway through the march. A sharp pinch. A sting. You limp the rest of the way, pretending it doesn't hurt, because no one wants to be the guy who held up the column for a spider bite. Every sound feels like a warning. The buzzing of insects. The rustling of leaves. The distant rumble of something that might be thunder or might be artillery. You don't know. You don't ask. You just keep moving. You meet your squad in a clearing by the edge of the jungle. They're sunburned, shirtless, sitting on crates and leaning against sandbags. Most are smoking. A couple are cleaning rifles. One is writing in a journal with the kind of focus usually reserved for people who know they're on a countdown. They look up when you approach. Nobody smiles. A guy with a bandana, instead of a helmet, gestures for you to sit. You do. The crate creaks under your weight. The smell of sweat, gun oil, and foot rot hits you all at once. Someone offers you a cigarette. You don't smoke, but you take it anyway. Holding something in your hands feels normal. He lights it for you, doesn't say a word. Just nods and goes back to picking dirt out from under his fingernails with a bayonet. Introductions happen without ceremony. Names, states, how long they've been in country. You say yours. You lie about how nervous you are. Everyone knows you're lying. No one calls you out, because they remember their first week too. One guy points at another and says, "He got shot the second day." The guy shrugs like it was a parking ticket, lifts his shirt, shows the scar, pale, puckered. You nod like you understand. You don't. Later someone gives you a tour. It takes 3 minutes. The latrine is a trench with a board over it. The showers are a black plastic bag suspended from a stick, filled with warm water and false hope. The rec room is a patch of dirt with a deck of cards nailed to a crate and a broken transistor radio that sometimes picks up armed forces radio if you hit it in the right spot. There's a wall of photos in one of the tents. Guys smiling, posing, holding beers, dogs, each other. Some are crossed out in pen. You don't ask what that means. You already know. You get your cot assignment. Middle row between two guys who snore. The mattress is soft only in the sense that it gives under pressure. Not because it's comfortable. You unpack your gear. It's already missing half the stuff they told you it would have. No extra socks. One canteen instead of two. No bug net. But there's plenty of ammo. And a field manual that still smells like fresh ink. You flip through it. None of it seems relevant. The sun starts to set around 6 p.m. The sky turns orange, then red, then dark. Real dark. No streetlights, no ambient glow. Just the stars and the occasional burst of light from a flare, somewhere too close for comfort. The jungle changes when the sun goes down. The noises get louder. Crickets, frogs, birds, all screaming at each other in a language you don't want to understand. Somewhere in the distance, something howls. You pretend it's a dog. You lie down on your cot, rifle beside you. You wrap your fingers around the sling like it'll keep you anchored. The heat hasn't broken. You're sweating through your sheets. You don't care anymore. You're too tired. You close your eyes. The buzz of insects hums through the tent like a broken fluorescent light. Your arm itches. Your back sticks to the mattress. Your neck is already sore and you haven't moved yet. You hear someone walk past outside. Their boots crunch the dirt, then stop, then move on. You open your eyes and stare at the ceiling for a while. There's no ceiling, just canvas. You remember that again. Eventually you drift, not sleep, not rest, just drift. Long enough to forget where you are. Long enough for your body to forget it's terrified. Then someone shakes your shoulder. You're on watch tonight. You wake up with your rifle across your chest because putting it anywhere else feels like an invitation. The stock has left a dent in your sternum. Your shoulder is sore. You don't complain. You sit up, wipe your face, and start checking your gear like they taught you. Clicks, snaps, taps. Half ritual, half desperation. You're not sure what you're looking for. You just know you'd rather find it now than later. Your pack is 60 pounds when it's empty and heavier every time you add something you're told is essential. Helmet, flak vest, web gear, ammo pouches, water canteen, trenching tool, extra socks that never stay dry, cigarettes you don't really smoke but trade like currency, waterproof matches that aren't waterproof, and the one thing you will guard with your life, the letter from home that hasn't left your front pocket in days. The M16 you were issued looks like it came straight from a recruiting poster. Sleek, black, made of plastic and promises. You were told it's lighter than the M14, more advanced, more accurate, more reliable. You believed them. You don't anymore. The first time it jams, it's during a training patrol. You're not under fire, which is the only reason you're still here. You pull the trigger, hear the click, and nothing happens. You clear the chamber. Try again. Another click. Still nothing. The sergeant grabs it from your hands, smacks it against a tree, and mutters something about cheap parts and dead kids. He gives it back without another word. After that, you clean it 3 times a day. Field strip, wipe, oil, reassemble, again and again, until you could do it blindfolded in your sleep. And probably will. Doesn't matter. It still jams. Everyone's does. The problem's in the rifle, not you. But when it fails in the field, they'll still blame the guy holding it. That's you. Your helmet is standard issue. Steel pot with a camouflage cover and a chin strap that cuts into your throat if you don't angle it just right. It's heavy. It doesn't stop much. But you wear it because the one guy who didn't last week took a piece of shrapnel just above the eyebrow and died with his eyes open. The flak vest is another cruel joke. Bulky, hot. Supposed to stop fragments? Doesn't. Not really. You wear it anyway. Not because it will save your life, but because the lieutenant will chew you out if you don't. It's a sweat trap. Your shirt underneath is soaked by 8 AM, and your back starts breaking down into a series of itchy rashes that never quite heal. Then there's your boots. They told you to break them in. You didn't have time. Nobody does. You lace them tight. Still get blisters. You tape your heels with duct tape, like the others. It helps, until it peels off. Then it makes everything worse. You learn not to take your boots off unless you absolutely have to. The smell is violent. Like mildew and regret had a child and left it to rot in a rice paddy. The foot powder helps for 5 minutes. Then the sweat takes over again. Your poncho is thin plastic, folded and tied to the side of your pack. It's for rain, which happens daily. The kind of rain that doesn't fall, it slams. Sideways. From above, from the ground. You throw the poncho over yourself and your gear like a tarp over a crime scene. It works for about 10 minutes, then leaks anyway. Water gets into everything. Your socks feel like wet paper. Your ammo tins rust. Your cigarettes turn to pulp. Your field rations come out smelling like basement water. You carry a bayonet. It attaches to the end of your rifle. No one ever tells you how often you'll need it, and you hope you never do. Using it means the rifle failed, or you're too close to shoot. Either way, the outcome is never clean. You sharpen it anyway, just in case. There's a gas mask in your pack. No one's used one yet, but they make you carry it. Adds weight, takes space. When someone asks if it would actually work in an attack, the squad leader shrugs and says, "Hope we never find out." You nod. That's the unofficial motto around here. You've also got a canteen, aluminum, scratched to hell. The water inside is warm and metallic, like drinking from a radiator. But it's water. You drink it, you refill it, you drink it again. If it runs dry, you have to find a stream and use the iodine tablets that make everything taste like stale pool water. Better than dysentery. Not by much. Sometimes you get lucky and score a pair of gloves. Usually not. You scrape your hands daily. On vines. On rocks. On your own belt buckle when you roll into the mud too fast. Your fingernails go black, not from injury, just from life. Dirt settles in under the skin and stays there. You stop noticing. Everyone does. Your web gear is a harness of straps and pouches designed by someone who clearly never wore one. Everything's too loose or too tight. Clips jam, buttons pop. You try to fix it with paracord and tape, and eventually you just accept that things will bounce around while you walk and hope nothing falls off at the wrong time. The rucksack is a beast. Green canvas. Huge. Unforgiving. Once it's full, it feels like you've strapped another person to your back. And that person hates you. You carry extra ammo, extra water, spare socks, toilet paper if you're smart, a digging tool for making hasty fighting holes, and something someone told you might help with trench foot. You never have everything you need. You always carry something you don't. Someone tells you to keep a picture in your helmet. Helps, they say. Something to remind you who you are. You put one in. It fades within a week from sweat and rain. The ink runs, the face disappears. You leave it there anyway. You carry a bandage kit, tourniquet, morphine syringe, first aid manual that says things like, apply pressure and evacuate. You laugh when you read that. Not because it's funny, because it assumes evacuation is a possibility. You've already been told not to count on that unless you're bleeding in a way that soaks through 3 shirts. The radio guy's gear is worse. He carries a PRC-25 that weighs more than a toddler and works only when it feels like it. The antenna gets caught on branches, the batteries drain fast, and half the time the signal is garbage. Goo, you pray you never have to carry it. You will. You're told to keep your rifle dry. In Vietnam, that's a myth. The moment you step outside the wire, it's wet. The moment you clean it, it's dirty again. The cleaning rod lives in your web gear now, because you'll need it often. You dream about it. It's not a tool anymore. It's a talisman. The gear is supposed to make you safer. Instead, it makes you slower, hotter, more tired, more miserable. You walk like a turtle stuffed with steel and lies. Your shoulders ache, your hips bruise. You feel the weight of every item, every strap, every miscalculation. And still, you wear it all. Because the one time you don't, the one time you decide to leave something behind, that'll be the day it could have saved your life. Or someone else's. And you'll have to live with that, if you live at all. They tell you the jungle is dense. That's an understatement. The jungle isn't a place, it's a trap. You don't walk through it. You crawl, push, duck, and swear through it. You don't move in a straight line. There's no such thing as a straight line. Just trees thick enough to block sunlight, vines that wrap around your legs, an underbrush designed to trip you face first into the nearest ant nest. The heat inside the jungle is different. Outside, it bakes you. In here, it steams you, like a slow boil you didn't agree to. The air doesn't circulate, it just sits on your skin like an invisible coat made of wet towels and mosquito spit. You take your helmet off for 5 minutes, and it feels like you're melting. Put it back on, and it's like pressing a cast iron skillet to your scalp. Everything is wet, the trees drip, the ground squishes, your gear never dries, your socks smell like decay, your shirt clings to you like regret. You try to wipe your face, but your hands are just as filthy, so you smear the mud around and move on. There's no silence. The jungle never shuts up. Birds screech, insects buzz, frogs croak at frequencies that feel weaponized. And then there are the sudden silences, the worst kind, when everything stops at once and you freeze, heart pounding in your throat, waiting to see if something's about to explode, crawl or both. And the legs. Everything in the jungle has legs. Too many, too fast, too close. You're constantly brushing off bugs the size of coins and pulling leeches off your socks with the same emotional energy people use to check their phones. You find a beetle in your shirt and barely flinch. You kill a centipede with your boot and just keep walking. Some bugs don't move much. They just bite. You never see them. Just feel the sting. Later, a welt the size of a quarter blooms across your forearm. You don't know what bit you. Nobody does. Doesn't matter. You rub some foot powder on it and hope it doesn't get worse. It will. Then there are the ants. They travel in lines thick enough to look like veins in the dirt. Step in one by accident and you'll be doing the itchy dance for hours. Fire ants, bullet ants, some with bites that burn, others that throb. One guy in your squad stepped on a nest and ended up on his knees, clawing at his own boots while the rest of you stood there, watching, helpless, because the ants were in his pants and nobody wanted to go near that situation. Spiders are everywhere. Not the cute kind. Not the movie kind. The kind that sit in the middle of webs thick as rope, just waiting for you to face plant into them. You learn to wave a stick ahead of you when you walk, like a blind man feeling out a hallway that hates him. It works. Mostly. Not always. You get web on your face once and spend the rest of the day twitching at invisible things. And it's not just the bugs. The plants are out for blood too. There are thorns that pierce straight through your gloves, branches that snap back into your face with a personal sense of vengeance, vines that tangle around your ankles just as you're trying to stay quiet, leaves that slice your arms like paper, and you won't even notice until the sweat hits the cut and you hiss out loud, a sound you weren't supposed to make. Your boots sink in the mud every fourth step. Every fifth, they stay there longer than they should. At some point, you stop trying to keep them clean. You stop trying to stay dry. You just accept that you're part of the ecosystem now. Another wet, miserable organism stumbling forward with no clear purpose. There's wildlife too. Snakes mostly. Some curl around tree trunks, blending in so perfectly you only notice them when you're already too close. Others wait in the underbrush, coiled like bad decisions. You hear stories about bamboo vipers and cobras. You believe everyone. You stop trusting logs. You stop trusting anything that doesn't immediately move when you poke it. One morning you find monkey tracks near camp. The guys laugh about it. Then someone finds the mess kit scattered across the mud and the laughter stops. It's not fear exactly. Just one more reminder that nothing here is safe. Not even your breakfast. Mosquitoes swarm in waves. Repellent slows them down, but not much. You spray, they wait. You sweat, they feast. You get used to sleeping under a net that doesn't work, slapping your arms in your sleep, and waking up with fresh bites on your neck that you swear weren't there last night. The jungle plays tricks on your eyes too. Movement where there's none. Shapes in the leaves that look like people. You start imagining things. At first you shake it off. Later you don't mention it. Everyone sees things eventually. Ghosts, shadows, flashes of motion. You stop asking if they were real. You stop caring. The trail is barely a trail. Just a line of broken twigs and boot prints that vanish in the rain. You follow the guy ahead of you and pray he knows where he's going. Half the time he doesn't. Maps don't help. The jungle shifts, paths flood, landmarks rot, trees fall. The ground gives out under your feet and you suddenly realise you've been walking across the top of a root network floating over a swamp. You fall in. You curse. Someone pulls you out. You don't talk about it. You start to smell like the jungle. Earth, sweat, mildew, rust. Your skin gets sticky, then peels. Your shirt never fully dries. You stop noticing the wet. You start to feel like it's just part of your body now, like lungs or fingernails. Something that's always there and always wrong. Your rifle picks up grime like a magnet. You wipe it down 10 times a day, and still the bolt feels sticky. Mud cakes the barrel. Your ammo belt is damp. Your matches won't light. Your radio crackles with static. Nothing works the way it's supposed to. You're tired. All the time. But you can't rest. Even when you stop, you don't stop. You crouch behind trees, eyes wide, ears straining. Every crack of a branch, every bird taking off, every shift in the wind might be the last thing you hear before the ambush. Because under all of it, The heat, the bugs, the stink. There's the real problem. The jungle isn't just alive. It's hiding people. Armed people. Patient people. People who know this terrain like you know your hometown. They've been here longer. They know the trails. They know the traps. They know how to disappear while standing 3 feet in front of you. And you? You just got here. The sun goes down fast in Vietnam. 1 minute you're squinting at the sweat in your eyes. The next you're stumbling around in something darker than night. Jungle darkness isn't empty. It's crowded. Heavy. The kind that presses against your face and clogs your ears. You can't see your hands. Can't tell the difference between the shape of a tree and the silhouette of someone trying to kill you. You lie in your tent, or a foxhole, or just on the bare ground with your helmet under your head and your rifle across your chest. The position changes, the misery doesn't. The ground is never flat, the rocks are never small. There's always a root where your kidney should be. Your back spasms from the pack you've been carrying for 12 hours. Your feet throb. Your calves twitch. You're too tired to move. Too wired to sleep. You close your eyes anyway. What happens next isn't sleep. It's more like shutting down sections of your brain for maintenance while the rest stays on alert. You don't rest. You hover. You drift just deep enough to forget where you are, until something pulls you back up. A twig snapping, a cough, a whisper, the sound of something stepping when nothing should be stepping. You sleep in shifts. 2 hours, maybe 3 if someone forgets to wake you. The watch schedule is written in pencil on a soggy sheet of paper pinned to the inside of a ration box. Half the time it's wrong. Someone's always late. Someone always forgets who's next. If they forget to wake you, you wake up angry. If they wake you, you wish they hadn't. You pull guard duty in the black. You sit behind a sandbag wall or in a slit trench, holding your rifle and trying to keep your eyes open. Everything looks like movement. Trees sway, shadows crawl, and bugs do their best to get into every orifice you haven't duct taped shut. You slap your neck for the 50th time and whisper a curse into the void. You're not supposed to smoke during watch. The cherry gives you away, but you do it anyway. Everyone does. It's the only thing that keeps you awake. You cup your hands around the flame, like that will save you from a sniper 300 meters out with a scope and patience. The match flares, then dies. The jungle watches. You listen. The mosquitoes are worse at night. Somehow. They hunt by heat, by breath, by spite. You wrap your face in a scarf, wear your poncho like armour, tuck your pants into your socks, and still get bitten. You run out of calamine. You scratch through fabric. You bleed. You stop caring. Sometimes it rains. Not regular rain, biblical rain. It hammers the canopy, pounds the earth, floods your sleeping hole until your toes prune and your pack floats. You sleep sitting up, hugging your rifle, chin on your knees, water soaking your collar and dripping down your spine like a faucet you can't turn off. If you're lucky, no one shoots at you during the night. If you're not, everything goes red fast. A single pop in the distance. Then tracers cut the sky open. Flares go up. The jungle lights up like a nightmare disco. You don't know who's firing or where. You just fire back toward the sound and pray you're not aiming at your own guys. Afterward, there's silence. The kind that feels sarcastic. You sit in it, soaked, muddy, breathing hard, pulse pounding, rifle hot. You wait for someone to say something. Nobody does. You go back to your spot, try to sleep again. Good luck with that. Dreams are a problem too. When they happen, they're weird, Not comforting. Disjointed loops of home, high school, your mum's voice, and something wet crawling across your ribs. You wake up with a start, breath caught in your throat, heart jackhammering like you just sprinted through a minefield. You don't talk about it. Nobody does. One guy in your unit wakes up screaming. They give him more watch shifts. He stops screaming. He just doesn't sleep anymore. You try tricks, sleeping in your socks, out of your socks, rolling up your jacket as a pillow, taking off your flak vest, leaving it on. Nothing works. You try a Tylenol you found at the bottom of your bag. You try whiskey from a flask someone smuggled in. You chew a stick of gum for 2 hours just to stay conscious on your watch. You doze off once and get smacked awake with the butt of a rifle. You never doze again. You stop measuring time in days. You start counting how many minutes of uninterrupted unconsciousness you get. 4 minutes? 6. Once. A full 10 before a rat ran over your chest and reminded you that you live in a war zone where even rodents have a sense of humour. The rats are fearless, big, loud, smart. They know where the rations are. They know how to open wrappers. They know when you're too tired to fight. You hear them at night, clawing through your pack, chewing near your head, dragging things off into the dark. You swat at them with a boot. Miss, go back to pretending you're asleep. Sleep deprivation becomes a second uniform. Your eyes burn, your vision blurs. You start forgetting things. Whether you cleaned your rifle, whether you drank water, whether that clicking sound in the bushes was real. You catch yourself blinking longer than you should. You shake it off. Your body jerks like it's trying to reboot. When you finally do sleep, you wake up worse. Groggy, sore, disoriented. It's not rest. It's a temporary coma. You come out of it confused, stiff, angrier than when you went in. Your mouth tastes like rust. Your shirt is wet. Your back is damp. Your gun is still there, which is all that matters. One guy tried sleeping without his boots once, woke up to find one missing. Took him half a day to find it in the underbrush. The next night, he tied the laces around his wrist. You do the same now. There are no good dreams out here, just short pauses between loud things. You stop wondering when you'll sleep well again. The idea becomes abstract, like mail delivery or real food. You start calling it rack time instead of sleep, like you're stacking yourself on a shelf and hoping the rats don't knock you over. Some nights are quiet. No rain, no flares, no fire. Just the buzz of bugs, the creak of trees, and the slow realization that you're still breathing. Those are the worst, because they give you hope. And in Vietnam, hope is a dangerous drug. The first time you open a sea ration, you think there's been a mistake. The can is labelled ham and lima beans. You pry it open with the dull edge of your bayonet, because your P38 can opener already snapped 2 days ago, and immediately regret everything. It smells like something someone dared a dog to eat. The ham is grey, the beans are green, and the sauce looks like it was filtered through regret. You eat it anyway, slowly, mechanically, because there's nothing else. Because you're hungry. Because food isn't food anymore. It's fuel, barely. Each ration is a cardboard box that looks like it holds a board game, except what's inside is less fun. One main course, a side, crackers that could stop a bullet, a tiny packet of toilet paper you could sneeze through, a plastic spoon that snaps under pressure, chewing gum, instant coffee, and a dessert that comes in the form of a cold brown disc labelled B1 chocolate. It's harder than your boots and tastes like pencil shavings soaked in chalk dust. You eat that too. The crackers are legendary for their indestructibility. You break them with a rock. You saw one guy use one to hammer in a tent stake. You wouldn't be surprised if the enemy had a few in their bunkers as improvised armour. When you eat them, your jaw clicks in protest. They taste like cardboard, only drier. You smear peanut butter on them from a foil pouch, that's 70% oil and 30% regret, stir it with your finger, and call it lunch. There's a fruit cocktail can. Technically, syrupy, slippery pieces of fruit swimming in something that resembles liquid candy corn. You slurp it down and pretend it's refreshing. Half the time the can is dented or rusty. You check for botulism by sniffing and hoping. The worst part isn't the taste, it's the repetition. Same options. Over and over. Ham and eggs, chopped. Turkey loaf. Spaghetti and meat sauce that tastes like someone described tomatoes to a guy with a can opener. You dream about fresh food. Then you forget what it tastes like. One guy says he'd kill for a cheeseburger. Another guy says he'd kill for something that doesn't come out of a can. They might both be serious. You try to get creative. Some guys mix their beans with crackers. Others crush cookies into the pudding can and call it pie. It's not. But the lie helps. Until someone drops their can in the mud and tries to wash it off with the last of their drinking water. You all pretend it's fine. You eat it anyway. Hot food is rare. Unless you're back at a base with a mess tent, which is almost never, it's cold rations in the field. Even then, the heat tabs you use to warm things barely work. They smell like sulphur and despair. You light one under a can, hold it over with your bayonet, and wait 15 minutes for the beans to go from icy to lukewarm. The flame goes out. You eat them half cold. Sometimes you get lucky and someone from the rear sends a box of pogey bait, comfort snacks, cans of peaches, hard candy, packets of instant lemonade. It's gone in minutes. No sharing, no mercy. First come, first inhaled. Coffee comes in little paper packets you stir into your canteen cup with tepid water and pretend it's coffee. It's not. It's bitter, weak, and vaguely metallic. You drink it because it keeps your brain from turning off. Add a sugar cube if you're feeling fancy. Stir with the same spoon you used for beans and pudding. Flavour becomes irrelevant. You drink water constantly, but it never feels like enough. The iodine tablets make it taste like chlorine and regret. Someone says to let it sit for half an hour. You don't have half an hour. You drink it, gag, and move on. You eat fast. Not because you like it, but because the faster you eat, the less you taste. Meals are silent, no one comments, no one critiques. You sit on your helmet, hunched over your lap, chewing quietly, watching the trees. Always the trees. Every once in a while someone gets mail from home with cookies inside. They're stale, crumbled, smell like cologne and insulation. They taste like memory. Everyone gets one. You eat it slow. The moment ends too fast. Field hygiene means you eat with dirty hands. Your fingers are covered in mud, gunpowder residue, and bug repellent. You wipe them on your pants, which are equally filthy. Sometimes you get a wet wipe. You save it for your face. Your mouth adapts. You stop caring. Your stomach doesn't. It churns, gurgles, complains. Diarrhea becomes part of the daily routine. You duck behind a bush, dig a quick hole, and hope it's not an anthill. You learn to identify which foods go through fast, and which ones come out in pieces. You stop judging yourself. You stop looking. There are no real mealtimes, just gaps between movement where no one's shooting. You eat when you can. Standing, crouching, walking. Half a cracker in your mouth, a pouch of cheese in one hand, rifle slung across your chest. Eating becomes multitasking. You shovel food in while listening for gunfire. Food loses meaning. It's not comfort. It's not taste. It's just one more thing you do to stay alive. Calories in, misery out. Day after day, you eat the same cans, rip the same labels, scrape the same spoon, and wonder if the guys making this stuff ever tasted it before shipping it overseas. They didn't. And if they did, they deserve a court-martial. You don't see the enemy. Not in the way you were trained for. There's no uniform, no flags, no front line. Just silence where there should be sound, and movement where there shouldn't be any. You squint at the trees for hours, trying to separate wind from danger, birds from ambushes, civilians from something else entirely. It doesn't work. The jungle doesn't show its hand. You're told you're here to fight the Viet Cong. You've seen the training films. Grainy footage of black-clad figures running through bamboo with AKs. That's not what you get. What you get is a kid herding water buffalo through a rice paddy who might be holding a grenade under his shirt. An old woman with a basket of bananas who won't make eye contact. A farmer planting rice with one hand and holding a radio in the other. Maybe. You don't know. You never know. You patrol a village. Mud huts, chickens, smoke drifting from cooking fires. Kids run barefoot in the dirt. They smile. Some of them. Some just stare. You nod. You wave. You try to keep your face neutral. Inside, every muscle tightens. Because every smiling face could be a mask. And every bystander might have buried a mine on the trail you're about to walk. You pass a cart loaded with firewood. The wood stacked funny. One guy raises his rifle. Another shakes his head. Nobody's sure. You keep moving. 20 minutes later, a different squad takes the same road. The cart explodes. They tell you to trust your gut. Your gut doesn't know anything. You've only been here 6 weeks. Your gut's just as clueless as you are, only more panicked. The rules are vague. Don't fire unless fired upon. Don't harm civilians. Don't detain without probable cause. But then someone in your unit takes a bullet from a window, and suddenly the entire building is gone. You don't see who fired. You don't know who was inside. You just follow orders. Clear the house. Sweep the alley. Don't ask questions. Questions are dangerous. Sometimes you meet ARVN troops, South Vietnamese Army. They're supposed to be your allies. Some speak English. Most don't. You nod at each other a lot. Smile when it feels right. You eat together sometimes. Share cigarettes. Trade patches. Then the next day you find out one of their units disappeared overnight. Deserted. Killed. Switched sides. Nobody's sure. You stop asking. There are briefings before every patrol. Intel says the area might be hot. Might be VC activity nearby. Might be traps. Might be snipers. It always might. Nothing is ever certain. Every mission is a coin flip with a burned edge. You find caches buried in the jungle. Rifles, ammo, medical kits with Russian lettering. Sometimes the caches are in plain sight, near a house with a rooster tied to a stick. You secure it, report it, then you move on. That night, the same village gets hit with mortars. You don't know who told. You don't know who listened. You run into teenagers with sandals made from tyres and rifles older than your dad. You see a 10-year-old with an RPG. You hear gunshots from the tree line and return fire, only to find no bodies, just casings, footprints, maybe. You learn to fear the quiet. No birds, no frogs, just heavy stillness. That's when it happens. That's when it starts. First a pop, then a crack. Then someone screams. Then someone stops screaming. Ambushes come fast. Shadows rise from the dirt. Shapes move behind trees. You fire back into the green, not knowing what you're hitting. Later, you walk the site. There's blood, but no bodies. Tracks lead into the brush and vanish. The jungle covers its dead. The mines are worse. Invisible. Buried. You're told to watch for signs. Disturbed earth. Tripwires. Discoloured grass. As if the jungle will politely warn you. A guy in your squad steps on one and vanishes from the knees down. You didn't even hear the click. 1 second he was there. The next you're trying to remember his name while someone screams for a tourniquet. There's no pattern to the attacks. Mortars at midnight. Snipers in the morning. A hand grenade tossed from a passing bicycle. You fire back. Nothing returns fire. You sweep the village. Everyone looks innocent. You leave. Someone else gets hit on the way out. Sometimes the enemy wears civilian clothes. Sometimes they wear your uniform. You hear stories about infiltrators dressed as ARVN, walking right into base camps with stolen ID tags and fake smiles. You don't know if it's true. You believe it anyway. You believe everything now. You believe nothing. The guy who shares your tent starts sleeping with his boots on. Easier to run, he says. You nod. Then start doing it too. You patrol the same route every few days. They call it recon by fire. You fire into the bushes before anyone shoots at you, just in case. You don't ask if anyone's out there. You assume they are. You assume they're watching. You assume they know your name. You stop making eye contact with villagers. You stop waving at kids. You stop talking to the interpreter unless you have to. He's friendly, fluent, quick with a joke. But he's also the only guy not sleeping on the ground with a rifle. You think about that too much. There's graffiti on a latrine wall that says, VC by day, friendly by night. Or maybe it's the other way around. No one erases it. You just read it every time you squat over the hole. You hear about a guy who opened fire on a water buffalo. Thought it was a person. The story changes every time it's told. One version says the buffalo had a bomb strapped to it. Another says it was just a buffalo. Either way, it's dead. That's all anyone agrees on. The radio says the area is pacified. The map says the sector is clear. But your boots say otherwise. Your ears say otherwise. The blood on the leaves says otherwise. And you? You don't say anything. Because you don't see the enemy. You just keep hoping they don't see you first. You don't always die in Vietnam because someone aimed at you. Sometimes you just step wrong. Booby traps are the silent partner in this war. They don't fire guns. They don't give speeches. They just wait. Buried in the dirt. Hidden in the trees. Tied to a branch. Balanced on a wire. You don't know they're there until you hear a click. And if you hear it at all, you've already lost. They teach you in briefings what to watch for. Tripwires, unnatural piles of leaves, disturbed dirt, fishing line tied to saplings. But that doesn't help. The jungle is one giant pile of leaves. The dirt is always disturbed. There's fishing line hanging in half the huts for drying clothes. You look, you try, you still miss it. Sometimes it's a grenade rigged under a tin can. You walk past it. The wire yanks, the can tips, the pin pops. By the time your brain connects the sound with the meaning, it's already over. You find yourself flat on your back. Ears ringing, lungs burning, unsure whether you're still whole until the pain tells you where you're not. Other times it's a pressure plate made from bamboo and roofing nails. Stepping on it releases a spring-loaded spike that punches straight through your boot, your foot, your career. You scream, or you don't. You're too busy choking on adrenaline while your squad tries to cut your boot off without taking your toes with it. Punji pits are popular. Simple. Effective. A shallow hole covered with brush, lined with sharpened bamboo stakes, sometimes coated in feces for infection. You don't fall far, just far enough to get stuck. The stakes don't kill you instantly. They just pin you down so someone else has to help. And now 2 people are off mission. You're screaming. They're pulling. Someone's applying pressure to your thigh. Someone else is looking at your femur, sticking out the side. There's blood. Always blood. But it's the quiet that gets you. The instant before the pain when you realise you're not standing anymore. Tripwire grenades are another classic. Wire tied between 2 trees, chest high. You don't see it. Your rifle catches it. Something clinks, then the explosion. One guy in your unit took shrapnel to the neck that way. He lived, sort of. He doesn't talk much now. Then there are the more creative ones. A mortar round balanced on a tin cup, hidden under a rice paddy bridge. A spike trap rigged to swing from a tree when you break a line of reeds. A glass jar filled with gasoline and nails attached to a tripwire near a village trail. Homemade napalm. One spark and you're not just burning, you're sticking. You scream until your voice dies. Your squad can't help. They just watch. Then stop watching. You learn to walk different. Slow, deliberate, eyes on the ground, then the trees, then the bushes, then back to the ground. Every step is a question. You poke things with your rifle. You never trust the obvious path. You walk where someone else just walked. Preferably someone heavier. Preferably not you. The point man has the worst job. He's first in line, first to step, first to die. Everyone rotates, but nobody volunteers. You hold your breath every time it's your turn. You hold it again when it's not, because the guy ahead of you might vanish in a red mist at any moment. You stare at his boots, memorize them, just in case. Sometimes you get lucky and spot one before it gets you. A glint of wire. A buried can. You freeze. Signal with your hand. Everyone drops to a knee. The EOD guy is called. He's calm, always calm. He kneels, digs, diffuses, walks away. You breathe again. A little. You mark the spot with tape. Red means someone almost died. Yellow means someone did. Some units keep a notebook. Others just remember by heart. There's a rumour about a trap in the north that fires ball bearings from a clay pipe when you open a latrine door. You laugh. Then someone says it happened in Da Nang last month. You stop laughing. You hear stories. A guy opens a ration box. Boom. Another leans on a tree that falls on a spike trap. Double boom. One patrol found a pile of dead rats wired together with det cord. You don't even ask why. You just nod and remind yourself to never touch anything that looks like it doesn't belong. Then remember that nothing here belongs. The worst traps are the ones you don't even notice until hours later. You slip in a flooded rice paddy, scrape your knee on a rusty nail buried in the plank. The medic wipes it down. You think it's fine. Then the fever hits. Your leg swells. The corpsman unwraps your bandage and makes a face. You know that face? He doesn't have to say it. They chopper you out. If you're lucky. If there's a bird available. If the LZ isn't hot. If someone can carry you without getting shot. You lie there wondering if losing a leg is better than staying here with it. You stop touching things. You stop leaning on trees. You stop kicking rocks. You stop trusting nature. You walk like a man in a minefield, because that's what you are. The worst part? These traps cost nothing. A few sticks, some wire, a nail, a little time. And they work. They slow you down, bleed you out, make you paranoid, make you hesitate. That's the real goal. Not to kill, just to wound. Wound someone bad enough and that someone else has to stop and help. Now you're all targets. Now they have the advantage. You dream about traps. You wake up flinching at imagined snaps and clicks. You check your boots before you put them on. You check your canteen cap twice. You tap the ground before you sit. You hesitate before taking a leak. One guy in your platoon swears there was a grenade rigged in an abandoned outhouse. You believe him. You've seen worse. Booby traps don't aim. They don't think. They don't discriminate. They wait and wait and wait and wait. And one day, maybe not today but soon, you'll step where someone else didn't. And then the jungle answers. Rain in Vietnam isn't something that happens. It's something that moves in and stays, like a bad commanding officer, with nowhere else to be. You get used to it in stages. First, you hope it stops. Then, you pray it doesn't get worse. Eventually, you stop noticing. You're always wet. Always. It doesn't come in drops. It slams down like the sky cracked open and changed its mind about you. The rain isn't gentle. It doesn't fall politely. It assaults the ground. It pounds the tin roofs until your ears ring. It turns every footpath into a mudslide and every foxhole into a bathtub. You try to cover yourself with your poncho. The water gets under it anyway. You try to keep your rifle dry. It drips from the barrel and leaks into the chamber. You can't see more than a few feet ahead. The downpour blurs everything. Vision fogs. Maps melt. Radios sputter. Your glasses, if you wear them, fog up from the inside. You take them off and walk blind because the alternative is worse. The guy next to you slips in the muck and nearly takes you down with him. He doesn't curse. No one does. That takes too much energy. Mud is the new terrain. Not dirt, not grass, mud. Deep, thick, ankle-grabbing. You pull your boots out with a sickening slurp every step. If you stop too long, the mud tries to keep them. And if it wins, you keep walking without them. Because you're not going back for anything in this sludge. Your socks rot. You change them when you can, which is rarely. Wet socks turn your feet in something between sponge and roadkill. Trench foot creeps in. Pale skin. Cracking. Bleeding. You tape your feet. Powder them. Dry them over small fires when no one's shooting. Doesn't help. Nothing helps. You start to wonder what colour your toes were supposed to be. Your skin breaks down in places you didn't know had skin. Your thighs chafe from damp fabric. Your back itches constantly. Your armpits sting. You develop a rash you never see but can always feel. The medic gives you ointment that smells like old mint. You apply it. It washes off in 20 minutes. You stop bothering. Your pack triples in weight. Not because of gear, because it's soaked. Everything is heavier. Your shirt, your pants, your weapon, your soul. The straps dig into your shoulders like they're carving a message. You keep walking. Sleep becomes a joke again. You dig a foxhole and wake up floating. Water pools around your ankles, then your knees, then your waist. You sit on a ration box and pretend it's dry ground. It isn't. The box leaks. Your butt is soaked. Everything smells like mildew, and whatever crawled into your boots last night and died. Rain messes with more than your body. It screws with movement. Helicopters can't fly. Convoys get stuck. Roads turn to clay. Coordinates blow on your map. You try to call in artillery. and the radio operator's soaked hands keep slipping on the dial. The numbers come out wrong. The shells land wide. Nobody says anything, but the look in the lieutenant's eyes tells you someone's not going home today. You hear thunder. You think it's incoming fire. You hear incoming fire. You think it's thunder. After a while, you just stop reacting to either. Rain drowns smells. You stop noticing the stench of your own body, but it also amplifies others. Dead things swell in the mud. You catch the whiff of something awful just before your boot sinks into it. You never find out what it was. You don't want to. You wipe it off on a tree and keep walking. The leeches love the rain. They come out in force. You pull one off your calf, and another appears on your neck. They find their way into your waistband, under your collar, between your toes. You feel them squirm. You rip them off. You bleed. Always a little more than you think you should. You can't build fires. The wood is too wet. You try anyway. You fail. You eat cold rations under a poncho that leaks from a new hole every day. You huddle with your squad like wet dogs. Someone's always coughing. Someone's always shivering. Nobody complains out loud anymore. You all just give each other the same look. Not sympathy. Recognition. Letters from home arrive smeared and unreadable. The ink runs. The pictures curl. The paper sticks together. You still carry them. You don't know why. Sometimes it rains for an hour. Sometimes it rains for 3 days. Straight. You don't ask about the forecast. There isn't one. You just look up, squint through the downpour, and wonder if it ever actually stops. Some guys say the rain's not even water, that it's chemicals. Leftover spray from something they dumped on the jungle last month. Agent something? You laugh, then cough, then laugh again. When the sun finally breaks through, you don't celebrate. You squint. You hiss. You realise the heat's worse now because the humidity just turned the air into soup. Everything steams. Your uniform dries into a crisp, salt-lined crust. You peel it off your skin, like it's trying to fuse with your body. The break doesn't last. The clouds are already gathering again. You stop hoping for dry. You stop planning for it. You pack everything in plastic, then double wrap it, then give up when even the inside of your flashlight is wet. You stop looking up when it starts. You just lower your head and keep moving. Rain is part of the war. Not an obstacle. Not a condition. Just another enemy you can't shoot. And it never runs out of ammunition. You thought the worst thing would be the enemy. You were wrong. The worst thing is not knowing where the next bullet comes from. Sometimes it's from across the river. Sometimes it's from behind you. Friendly fire sounds like an accident, like something rare, like something someone apologises for afterwards. It's not. It's routine. It's part of the landscape. The jungle distorts everything. Vision, sound, judgment. In the chaos, it doesn't matter what flag your patch shows. You're just a shape in the trees. The first time it happens, you're in a clearing. Ambush drill, they said. You fire at silhouettes in the tree line. Suddenly, someone goes down 2 rows to your left. Shot clean through the side. No VC. Just bad positioning and a private who panicked. He's airlifted out. You never see him again. No one says anything. There's no lecture. Just a quiet pause and a guy with blood on his boots who doesn't stop shaking for the next 36 hours. Night makes it worse. No one can see. Everyone's on edge. You hear a rustle. You shoot. They shoot. Someone screams. The flare lights up the jungle and reveals 3 US soldiers crawling back toward camp. They're hit. One is dead. No one knows who opened fire first. Doesn't matter. doesn't change anything. The radio cracks with confusion. Grid references blur. Fire missions get called on the wrong coordinates. Once, a squad calls in mortars and forgets to correct for elevation. The rounds land 200 metres short, right on another patrol. 2 dead, 1 critical. You hear about it third hand while cleaning your rifle. Nobody uses the word accident. They just say blue on blue and change the subject. The guys calling the shots? They're not much better. Your CO is a captain who looks good on paper and bad in the field. He's clean-shaven, always smells like cologne, and carries his rifle like it's going to smudge his boots. You know he's new because he still tucks his fatigues in too neatly and says things like, execute a pincer manoeuvre, when all you want is to know which direction not to die in. He leads from the rear. Literally. Half the time, you don't know where he is. The radio operator says he's evaluating. What he's evaluating is unclear. Probably how many more weeks until his rotation is over. Lieutenants are worse. They're either too young or too scared. The worst ones are both. You get orders to move through a known hot zone at noon. Everyone protests. He insists. The intel says they're gone. They're not. You lose 2 guys to an IED before you even make it halfway through. The rest of the patrol gets pinned. You fight your way out, barely. He writes it up as a successful contact. He gets a commendation. You get another sleepless week. Some of the NCOs try. Really? They've been here longer? Know what not to do. When they give an order, you listen. Because they're the ones who'll actually be next to you when things go sideways. But even they're stretched thin. One of them breaks down after his 3rd patrol that week, sits in the dirt, smoking with both hands, muttering about too many names, not enough body bags. You give him space. Air support is another coin toss. You call in fast movers. F4s drop napalm. You hear the roar, see the streak, then realise the pilot's map is a week old and he just torched a patch of jungle your 2nd squad was clearing. You radio in the correction. Too late. They're gone. Artillery's no safer. The big guns are miles away, operated by guys who've never seen the dirt you're kneeling in. You give them your position. They repeat it back wrong. You correct them. They acknowledge. Then the first round lands 50 metres too close and kicks some mud into your mouth. You throw the radio back to the FO and hope the next one's better. Miscommunication is a constant. One squad moves left, another moves right. Neither knows the other is there. They both hear something. They both fire. Now you're dragging 2 wounded guys back through the brush, one of whom was shot in the back by a man he shared a foxhole with last night. Reports are always clean, sanitised. Engaged hostile force. Sustained minor casualties. You never see the phrase, shot our own guys. You never see, sent 3 kids into an ambush because someone misread the grid. When someone higher up visits, a major, a colonel, God help you a general, the entire zone becomes theatre. Sandbags get stacked, uniforms get ironed, trucks get washed. You're pulled off patrol and told to smile during the photo op. He shakes your hand, says you're doing great work, then flies off in a chopper while you go back to boiling your socks in river water because the supply drop missed your LZ by 2 miles. You start to trust only the guys in your squad, not the brass, not the maps, not the orders, definitely not the timetables. You do your job, cover your sector, and ignore the rest. You learn that when the bullets start flying, rank fades. It's just people. And some of those people shoot in the wrong direction. There's a saying you hear passed around. The safest place in Vietnam is right behind the enemy, Because our own artillery can't hit anything past 100 yards. It's not a joke, it's advice. Vietnam doesn't just get hot, it gets hostile. The heat doesn't radiate, it wraps. Heavy, wet, constant. Like standing in a sauna while wearing a coat full of bricks. There's no shade that matters. The jungle filters sunlight into something worse. Sticky, dense, directionless. You sweat from places you didn't know had pores. You wake up sweating. Doesn't matter that it's still dark. The humidity doesn't sleep. Your shirt clings to you like glue. Your pants stick to your thighs. Your socks squish, even when they're dry. You shift in your sleeping hole and feel the water collect in your boots from last night's rain. That moisture? It's warm now. You pour it out. It returns. Walking is a punishment. Every step pushes steam from the ground into your face. Your helmet traps heat against your scalp. Your flak vest insulates like a stove. Your rifle heats up under your hand. Metal burns. You drop it. You pick it back up. You deal with it. Your sweat mixes with bug repellent, gun oil, and filth. You smell yourself. You smell everyone else. It's not sweat, it's chemical. Sour, sharp, baked in. You stop noticing after a while. The heat bakes your nose numb. Your skin doesn't dry. It never does. The sun here isn't overhead, it's everywhere. It reflects off the water in the rice paddies. It bounces off mud. It soaks into your gear. You try to keep your sleeves down to avoid burns. Doesn't matter. The sun finds its way in through the gap in your collar, the crack in your gloves. Your neck goes first, then your ears, then whatever inch of flesh you forgot to cover during the last 5 minutes. Sunburn in this place isn't red. It's blistered, bleeding, peeling. You rub aloe from a tube someone got in a care package 2 months ago. It stings. You do it anyway. You don't care how it looks. You just want it to stop throbbing. It doesn't. Your canteen's always warm. You drink anyway. Tastes like metal and regret. But you drink. You have to. The heat doesn't ask permission. It just takes. You pour iodine tablets into a river bottle. Swish, sip, gag and swallow. It's thick. Like drinking hot pennies. Some guys try to ration water. They pass out. The cordman shakes them, pours water over their heads, slaps their cheeks. If you're lucky, you come back. If not, you get a chopper ride you don't remember. Maybe a saline drip in Da Nang. Maybe a plastic bag. Either way, you're out of the heat, for now. Sweat stings your eyes. It crawls down your back. It pulls in your boots. You don't stop sweating, even in the rain. Especially in the rain. It's a new layer. You can't tell if your shirt's wet from weather or your own body. Doesn't matter. It's wet. Always wet. The Kaufman checks for heat rash. Everyone's got it. Red bumps along the beltline. Underarms. Inside the thighs. You scratch without thinking. Then wince. Then bleed. You stop scratching. You start flinching instead. He gives you powder. Doesn't help. Nothing helps. It's too late. You try to pace yourself. Move slower. Save energy. The jungle doesn't care. It demands the same from you every day. Doesn't care how much you slept. Doesn't care if you're hungry. Doesn't care if your shirt's soaked through before noon. You keep walking. Or you fall. The heat makes tempers short. Someone says the wrong thing. Someone snaps. A punch. A shove. Then silence. No one wants to waste energy fighting. You're already losing the real fight. Against the sun, the humidity, the sheer weight of existing in a place that doesn't want you there. You stop wearing undershirts. You stop tying your boots right. You stop caring about how you look. You tie your sleeves up with bootlaces. You cut the sleeves off entirely. Anything to make it more bearable. It isn't. Some days the air is so thick it feels like drowning without water. You breathe shallow. You move less. You think slower. You hallucinate a breeze. It never comes. You look at the trees for movement. They don't sway. They just stand there, still, holding in the heat like it's a secret. Sunstroke hits like a bullet. 1 minute you're fine. The next, your legs give out. You drop your gear. You slump against a tree. Your vision pulses. Your mouth dries out, even though you've been drinking all day. You feel cold, which is the worst sign of all. The corpsman makes you lie flat, fans you with a helmet, dumps canteen water on your chest. You shiver, then sweat again, then cry, but no one notices because it all looks the same now. Helmets become ovens. You take yours off and risk it. One guy didn't. Got heat exhaustion so bad he couldn't walk. The sergeant still wrote him up for negligence of uniform. You laugh, then stop, because you're next. Even at night, it doesn't cool. The heat just goes quiet, like a predator resting before the next strike. You lie in your hole, shirt open, arms behind your head, hoping for wind. You don't get it. You sweat in your sleep. You wake up soaked, lips dry, mouth tasting like metal and mildew. You don't dream about snow. You dream about cold water, air conditioning, the freezer section of a grocery store, sitting in a car with the AC on full blast, sweat freezing against your skin. You wake up and remember where you are, and you start sweating again. You count the days. Not until rotation, not until rest, just until cloud cover. You stop asking for relief. You start asking for shade. You stop hoping for rain. You start hoping you make it to sundown. And then you do, and then you do it again. Mail call comes without warning. Someone yells from a tent flap or a helicopter door. Guys line up like they're starving. Not for food, for something else. Something that feels less like war and more like memory. You stand in line and hope your name's on one of the envelopes. You hope it's legible. You hope it's not damp, not folded, not sealed with tape because someone back home still thinks they're being cute. When you get one, you don't read it right away. You hold it, feel the paper, flip it over in your hands a few times. It's soft in a way nothing else here is. Light, personal. Written in ink that sometimes smears across the envelope because the humidity doesn't care what's important to you. You wipe the corner with your thumb like it'll help. It doesn't. The handwriting jumps out first. Your mum. Your girl. A buddy who got out of the draft. The curves of the letters hit harder than any photograph. It reminds you there's a world beyond the wet green suffocation you've been stuck in for weeks. You almost hate it. Opening the letter is delicate work. You try not to tear it. You try not to smear the ink. You try not to think about how long it's been travelling. The date in the corner says 2 months ago. You don't do the math. You don't want to know what's changed since they wrote it. Inside, the words are normal, innocent. They talk about the weather, the dog, a neighbour's broken arm. They ask how you are, like that's a question you could answer. They say they hope you're safe. You read that part twice, because you're not, and they probably know it, but writing it feels like a spell. They send pictures. Sometimes. Curled at the edges, grainy, frozen. A birthday party you missed. A Christmas tree in a window you'll probably never see again. Your little brother in a baseball uniform. He grew 3 inches. You stare at it like it's a crime scene photo. Not because of what's in it. Because of what's missing. Because it moved on without you. Sometimes the letters are typed. Cleaner. Colder. form letters from the army, supply notifications, base updates. One guy got a letter from a senator, some PR nonsense about supporting the troops. He used it to wipe mud off his rifle. Sometimes you get nothing. No letter, no word. Not this time. Maybe next week. Maybe never. You shrug like it doesn't bother you. It does. Everyone sees it, but no one says anything. You try writing back. When you can. When the pen works. When your hands aren't shaking from a patrol that ended ugly. You sit on your helmet, back against a tree, and scratch out 5 sentences. I'm okay. It's hot. We're moving a lot. You lie about everything except the heat. You tell them you're safe. You say the food's not bad. You don't mention the kid who stepped on a mine last Thursday. You don't mention the rats, or the crying, or the way the jungle smells after a firefight. Some guys write pages, poetry even, pouring it all out onto paper like it'll mean something. Others just write "still alive" and seal the envelope. You do what you can. Censorship is real. You don't mention locations. You don't mention names. You don't say anything that sounds like weakness. You write like someone's reading over your shoulder, because someone is. And if they don't like what they see, the letter disappears. One guy got a Dear John letter, 3 pages, handwritten, perfumed, said she'd met someone new, back home, a dentist. His hands shook for 2 days. He stopped talking. He didn't cry. He just folded the letter, put it in his pocket and started volunteering for point more often than he should have. Sometimes guys trade letters. Here, read this. My girl sent a joke. You laugh, not because it's funny, because it's not the jungle. Because for 5 seconds, someone reminded you what it's like to hear something normal. Care packages arrive when the system feels generous. Cookies crushed to dust. Candy melted into the wrapper. Jerky, hard as wood, but still edible. A cassette tape, if you're lucky. And if the tape deck hasn't shorted out from rain again. Music sounds weird out here. Too clean. Too soft. You listen anyway. There's a kid who carries his girlfriend's letter folded in his helmet liner. The ink's bleeding now. You can barely read the words. Doesn't matter. He's memorized it. Repeats it at night like scripture. Doesn't say it out loud. Just mouths it. Over and over. Some guys don't get mail. Ever. No parents. No girlfriends. No friends. They pretend they don't care. You know they do. You hand them part of your candy bar and say nothing. They nod. You move on. Sometimes a letter arrives for someone who's not here anymore. The sergeant reads the name, pauses, then folds it up and tucks it away. Nobody asks where it goes. Nobody wants to know. The worst letters aren't sad. They're cheerful, oblivious. Can't wait till you're back. You read them in silence, biting your tongue. You're not mad, just tired of pretending, of explaining, of trying to make the people back home understand a place they've never smelled, never seen, never survived. You keep every letter, even the bad ones. Folded, torn, stained, you stuff them into your pack. They weigh nothing. They weigh everything. And when it's quiet, when the bugs are chirping and the next shift hasn't woken up yet, you pull one out, read it again. Not for the words, for the handwriting, for proof that the world still exists. Somewhere. Vietnam smells. Not just the jungle, the war. It has a scent, a stew of rot, smoke, fuel, mud, blood, mildew, sweat, garbage, and something else no one has ever named properly. You smell it before you hear gunfire, before you see anything. You get off the chopper and your nose is already under attack. It never recovers. There's no fresh air, not once, not anywhere. The closest you get is damp air, thick with rain and leaves and something decomposing just out of view. Even that's temporary. Within minutes, it turns. You pick up diesel from the parked APCs, the acid stink of your own uniform, and the unmistakable odour of death pretending to be part of the scenery. Rot is the baseline. It's in the ground, in the water, in the walls of villages. Food scraps, animal guts, human waste, and the occasional corpse no one got around to moving yet. You try to breathe through your mouth. Doesn't help. The smell finds your tongue, crawls into your sinuses, makes itself at home. Your own body turns against you. You smell yourself constantly. It's in your shirt, in your boots, in your sleeping bag. Your armpits have their own zip code. Your breath smells like metal, and whatever you ate 3 days ago that still hasn't digested right. You stop trying to wash. There's no point. The water's dirty. The soap runs out. You wipe your face with the inside of your undershirt, then put it back on and pretend that counts. Gunpowder has a smell. Not sharp. Not clean. It clings. Burnt carbon. Grease. Heat. It gets into your fingers after you fire. You can't scrub it out. You just carry it around. Same with the oil you use to clean your weapon. You know the smell so well that you can tell when someone's used too much, too little, or none at all. A guy who doesn't oil his rifle right smells different, and everyone notices. Fire is part of it too. The jungle burns often, sometimes from airstrikes, sometimes from stray tracers, sometimes because someone wanted to clear brush and didn't think about wind. The smoke is thick and sweet at first, then it turns acrid. Trees burn, brush burns, wood huts burn, flesh burns. All of it mixes. The air turns black and sticky. You feel it in your teeth. Napalm is its own category. It doesn't just burn, it sears into the air itself. Sweet, chemical, permanent. You can smell napalm a mile away. The wind carries it like a warning. You taste it before you see it. And when you see it, it's already too late. Black plumes, trees on fire, screaming, or just silence and flickering light. Later, you walk through the scorched zone. Nothing left. Not even the smell. Just heat and ash. Somehow that's worse. Dead bodies are a smell you don't forget. It starts subtle, like rotting fruit. Then it deepens, sharpens, becomes unmistakable. It clings to your boots if you get too close, lingers in your nostrils long after you walk away. You don't need to see them. You just smell and know. One time you smelled one before a firefight. Your stomach turned, and 5 minutes later, you were dragging a guy to cover who didn't make it out. You couldn't eat for 2 days. Not because of grief, because of the stink that wouldn't leave your face. The river smells too. It's not fresh water. It's slow-moving, algae-choked, and filled with things you don't ask about. Sometimes they send you through it waist-deep. You try not to think about what brushed against your leg. Your uniform dries stiff, but the smell stays. Animals add their own layer. Chickens in the villages. Pigs. Buffalo. All sweating. All pissing. All bleeding from somewhere. Leeches squish under your heel. Snakes leave musk on the air. You recognise it after a while. You never wanted to be the kind of person who could smell a snake. Now you are. Blood smells like iron and heat. You smell it every time you touch someone who's been hit. Every time you drag someone out. It stays in your skin longer than the actual stain. You wash it off and still catch a whiff 3 days later, even if it wasn't yours. Every patrol adds something new. Burned rubber, diesel exhaust, smouldering trash, Cordite, sweat-stained canvas, the outhouse pit behind base that's been full since Tet, the rot under a bridge, the reek of fear from someone who just realised they might die in the next 30 seconds. You can smell fear. You didn't used to believe that. You do now. You stop flinching at it. That's the worst part. The way it becomes background noise for your nose. You don't gag anymore. You just breathe through it. You know which direction to avoid, which corner of the base to hold your breath near. You learn to eat with your face turned slightly to the side, away from the worst of it. Doesn't help. But it feels like trying. Care packages sometimes have aftershave or perfume inside. It leaks. You open the box and get hit with a blast of artificial vanilla or lilac or whatever scent your mom thought would remind you of home. It makes you dizzy. You shut the box fast. You never open it again. Not because it smells bad, because it reminds you what clean used to be, what normal used to smell like, what you don't believe in anymore. You stop noticing the worst smells. You adapt. The way rats adapt to poison, the way corpses adapt to exposure. You become part of the jungle's nose-blind population, until one day you rotate out, sit on a plane, and realise you stink so bad that even you can smell it again. The stewardess hands you a towel, smiles like she's been trained to ignore it. You smile back. She turns her head just a little, and you pretend you didn't notice. Combat isn't like the movies. You don't strut, you don't scream, you don't move in synchronised lines with dramatic music in the background. You're just walking, sweaty, tired, half listening, when something explodes 3 feet to your left, and suddenly the world is all wrong. It's not one sound, it's a stack of them. Gunfire, shouting, metal clanging, leaves tearing, someone screaming, the crack of branches, the thud of boots, the whoosh of something overhead, all at once, overlapping, none of it making sense. You drop to the ground, or someone else does it for you. Doesn't matter. You don't think. Thinking gets you killed. You move, or you freeze. Either way, the jungle doesn't care. Bullets don't whistle past like they do in the training videos. They snap, crack, like a whip. You don't see them, you hear them. Close means a hiss in your ear. Closer means a branch explodes next to your face. Closest means someone falls and doesn't get up. Your hands move on their own, rifle up, safety off, sight picture, fire, repeat. You're aiming at nothing, or at shadows, or at a bush that moved wrong. Someone's yelling commands. You can't hear them. You hear your breathing. Loud, ragged, like you're already dying and your lungs are trying to escape. The first time it happens, you forget to shoot. You just lie there, watching tracers bounce through the trees. Your finger is frozen on the trigger. A guy next to you fires 5 rounds, then grabs your collar and drags you into cover. You thank him later? You don't say much. He doesn't ask why you froze. He knows. The first time you shoot someone, you don't realise it. You're firing at movement, at sound, at where you think the muzzle flash came from. You unload a mag, reload without looking, and keep going. Afterward, someone finds a body. They say it might have been yours. You nod. You don't feel anything. Not yet. That comes later. Or doesn't. The jungle turns against you. Visibility shrinks to feet. Every tree looks like cover. Every bush looks like a sniper hide. You fire into both. You keep moving, or crawling. You hear someone yell, "Flank left!" And you don't know if they mean you, or the guy behind you, or someone already dead. You move anyway. Someone gets hit. They drop like a sack of meat. No drama, just down. Legs folded under, rifle sideways. You drag them back by the webbing on their vest. They're moaning. That's good. Moaning means alive. Screaming means shock. Silent means you stop dragging. You check their wound. Torso, not good. Blood's pumping. You pack it with your spare shirt. That's all you've got. The medic's on his way. Or not. You go back to firing. Artillery comes in. Your side. You hope. It hits nearby. Close enough to knock the wind out of your chest and shower you with dirt. You hear a guy yell, "Short round!" and everyone ducks. The next one lands where it's supposed to. Or close enough. Smoke grenades go off. Visibility goes to 0. You're blind. You stop firing. You don't know where your guys are. You don't want to shoot them. You just crouch and listen. You smell the phosphorus. You taste it. Like a burning battery in the back of your throat. The shooting stops. Slowly. A few pops here and there. Then silence. Not total silence. The jungle never gives you that. But combat silence. The kind where no one talks, because no one's sure if it's actually over. You stand, cautiously. Rifle still up. Finger still on the trigger. Safety still off. You check your guys. One missing. You call his name. Nothing. You fan out. Find him behind a tree. Shrapnel. Upper leg. He's breathing. Not talking. That's okay. He's alive. You start pleasing brass. Habit. Routine. It calms you. You reload slowly, hands shaking just a little. You sip from your canteen. The water tastes like metal and adrenaline. You spit. Someone finds a body. VC, maybe. He's young, looks 16, has no rifle, just sandals and a pouch of rice. You stare, then look away. You don't talk about it. You never talk about them. Back at the LZ, a lieutenant asks for the after-action report. You shrug. You write something vague. Engaged hostile force. Sustained contact for X minutes. Returned fire. Withdrew in good order. That's what they want to hear. Not, I shot at trees for 10 minutes and can't stop tasting blood in my teeth. You clean your weapon. Slowly. Carefully. You don't talk to anyone. No one talks to you. Not for an hour. Then someone cracks a joke. A bad one. About the guy who peed himself when the mortars hit. Everyone laughs too hard. Too long. It's not funny. It's necessary. You check your pack. One of your magazines is missing. Doesn't matter. You're alive. You have 5 more. You check your boots. Still on, still laced. You check your hands. Still yours. Combat is loud, it's fast, it's wrong. You shoot in the wrong direction. You fall the wrong way. You grab the wrong guy. You fire too late, or too early, or not at all. You survive anyway. Not because you were good, because you were lucky. And the guy next to you wasn't. At first, it's just exhaustion. You chalk it up to patrol rotations, poor sleep, crap food, heat. You're tired. Everyone's tired. That's normal. That's manageable. But then it's something else. A flicker you can't shake. A shadow you see too long. A sound you can't place, even after it's gone. You stop sleeping right. Not just short hours. Wrong sleep. You wake up in the middle of the night. Heart pounding. Body still in a firing position. No dream you can remember. Just panic. And the kind that lingers after the bugs start chirping again. The fear is always there now. Low level. Background hum. Like tinnitus for your gut. You're always waiting for something to go wrong. You stop relaxing, even when things are quiet. Even when it's just routine recon. Even when you're writing a letter. Especially then. The jungle starts looking different. Less like trees, more like traps. The light through the canopy. Too quiet. That's not peace, that's bait. The breeze that kicks up your poncho feels like a warning. Your brain rewires. Relaxation becomes threat detection failure. Calm becomes a mistake you're about to pay for. You start flinching at little things. A snapped twig. A cough. A distant pop from the range on base. Someone laughs and you instinctively duck. You think it's a mortar. Then you feel stupid. Then you stop thinking it's stupid, because the last guy who let his guard down got airlifted with a hole in his shoulder. The guilt creeps in sideways. One day you're eating your third can of ham and beans, and it hits you. The guy who used to complain about that meal isn't here anymore. You didn't even notice when you stopped saving a spot for him in the tent. His name fades, but the memory of the shape he left behind doesn't. You try not to count the ones who didn't make it, but you do. One by one. You see the spot where they used to sit. Hear the last dumb joke they made. Picture how they fell. You remember the position they landed in, not the one they marched in. It messes with your head. But you keep going, because what else is there? Some days you feel like you're floating above yourself. Watching you do the drills, fire the weapon, write the reports, your hands move like they belong to someone else. You eat without tasting, talk without hearing, sleep without resting. Then there's the stare. You see it first in someone else. A guy sitting under a tarp, rifle in his lap. Eyes fixed on something that isn't there. Not blinking, not tracking. Just staring. Through the jungle. Through the trees. Through time. Like he's waiting for a bullet that's still in the air. You wave a hand in front of his face. Nothing. He comes back a few seconds later. Acts normal. He doesn't know he left. Then one day, you catch yourself doing the same thing. Sitting. Silent. Watching nothing. Waiting for something. You don't know what, but your hands are tight around your rifle, and your feet are flexed like they're ready to run. And you realise you've been locked in place for 10 minutes, staring at a tree. A stupid tree. The courtman calls it combat fatigue. You call it normal. Because if it's not normal, you've got a bigger problem. So you shrug it off. Drink some iodine-laced water. Say you're just tired. He nods. Doesn't press. He's seen it before. No one talks about it. No one says, I'm losing it. They just get quiet. Withdraw. Volunteer for extra shifts. Stop writing home. Start sleeping with their weapon on their chest, like they're afraid someone's going to take it in the night. You watch them carefully. Not because you think they're a danger, because you don't want to catch whatever they've got. As if it's contagious. It is. Some guys snap. Quietly. One morning, a guy in your unit starts cleaning his rifle obsessively. Takes it apart, puts it back together, then repeats for 6 hours. He misses chow, doesn't talk, just keeps cleaning. When someone tries to interrupt him, he stares straight through them and says, I think it's jammed. It's not. It's spotless. Another guy just walks into the jungle one night. No rifle, no boots, nothing. They find him 2 days later, half submerged in a rice paddy, face up, whispering the word clear over and over. He rotates out after that. Medical evac. No one says goodbye. No one talks about it. You start having the dream. Everyone does. Different version, same story. You're in the middle of a firefight. Your rifle jams. Or you're running and can't move. Or you see something coming and can't speak. You wake up soaked, fists clenched, not screaming because you trained yourself not to make noise in your sleep. You don't want to scare the others. You don't want to scare yourself. The guilt gets heavier. Not survivor's guilt. Shooter's guilt. You think about that figure in the bush. Was it really a VC? Was that kid in the black pyjamas reaching for a weapon or just running away? You'll never know. The intel says confirmed kill. The pictures say move on. Your gut says something different. But you don't talk about that either. You bury it, deep, behind routines, sarcasm, and another can of peaches that tastes like plastic sadness. You bury it under another patrol, another letter half finished, another awkward silence around the fire. Eventually the crack becomes permanent, not a breakdown, just a shift, a fracture in your thinking. You see something move in the trees and your heart races for no reason. You hear a chopper in the distance and your body tenses like it's go time again. You check your rifle 3 times before you even put on your boots. The war gets in, and once it's in, it doesn't leave. Even when you do. Rotation orders feel fake when you get them. Just another rumour at first, another name misread. You don't believe it until the CO calls you in and says the word short timer. You nod. Try to act like it's no big deal. But it is. You've been counting down since day 1, and now the number is 0. You're leaving. You get moved back to a larger base for processing. No more patrols. No more night watch. You pack what little you've got that's worth taking. A lighter. Some letters, the boots that didn't fall apart. Everything else gets tossed or traded. Some guys keep souvenirs. An AK round. A patch. A sliver of shrapnel dug from a friend's arm. You don't. You've had enough. You turn in your rifle. That part's surreal. Your hands feel empty without it. Lighter, but not better. It's been your shadow, your seat cushion, your crutch, your reason. Now it's gone. A quartermaster takes it like it's just gear. To them, it is. Before you fly, they make you shower. Real shower. Not jungle buckets or canteen dumps. You scrub with industrial soap that smells like hospital floor cleaner. There's a line of guys ahead of you, all doing the same thing, trying to wash off a year they'll never stop feeling. Then comes the shave, the haircut, the uniform press. You're dressed like the version of yourself that arrived here months ago. Clean, buttoned, whole. The mirror says you look sharp. The mirror lies. At the airstrip, you wait with the others, mostly quiet. Someone jokes about never having to eat sea rats again. Another says he'll never complain about traffic back home. You nod. You smile. But you don't laugh. Not really. The C-141 sits on the tarmac, humming. A white bird, clean and sterile like it's never seen mud or blood. You climb aboard. No applause, no send-off. Just the roar of engines and a new kind of silence. One that doesn't come from fear, but from confusion. You're out. But where do you go now? The flight is long. The air smells like aluminum and recycled breath. You watch clouds roll beneath you and wonder what it's like to be one of them. Cold, white, drifting, above everything. You land on American soil. Nobody shoots at the plane. Nobody screams. It's quiet in a way that makes your shoulders tense, because you're waiting for something to go wrong. But nothing does. Customs checks your paperwork. They stamp it like you're a tourist. Someone hands you a voucher, bus ticket, meal token. Welcome home, soldier. You step outside and it hits you. America doesn't look like you remembered. Too bright, too clean. Everyone's moving too fast. The cars are too loud, but no one's ducking. The civilians are soft-faced and unaware. The guy behind the counter at the airport asks if you want fries with that. You can't decide if you're furious or grateful. You stop in a bathroom. Look at yourself. You're back. But not really. Your skin still smells like mildew. Your teeth hurt from clenching. Your eyes are older than they were. You don't see a reflection. You see someone who made it. That's not pride. It's just fact. Then the hard part. You walk through the terminal, and it happens. Someone looks at you, at your haircut, your uniform, and sneers, calls you a baby killer, under their breath. Another shakes their head and mutters something about war crimes. You hear it, loud and clear, not shouted, just slipped into the air like poison. There's no welcome parade, no handshake, no brass band, no banner that says thanks. Just civilians who don't know what you did, what you saw, or what it took to come back with 2 legs and a heartbeat. You want to scream. You want to grab them by the collar and describe every hour of mud, every ambush, every night you watched your buddy's silhouette to see if he was still breathing. But you don't. You just keep walking. You make it home. Real home. Your parents or wife or girlfriend or whoever is still waiting. The house is smaller than you remember. The room's too quiet. The smell's too clean. You stand in the doorway for 10 minutes before stepping in, like you're waiting to get cleared for entry. People ask questions. Was it bad? Did you see combat? Did you kill anyone? You give them the same answer every time. It was hot. They nod. Like that explains it. You sit at the dinner table and try not to flinch when someone drops a fork. You go to bed and wake up under the bed. Your boots are still on. Your shirt is soaked. You wait for the sound of a chopper. It never comes. That's worse. You walk downtown and everyone's in a hurry, talking about TV shows, football scores, who's running for office. You nod along. Try to care. Can't. You feel like a ghost wearing the wrong body. The VA says you're fine. They don't ask much. You don't tell much. You learn to lie with a smile. You apply for jobs. They ask about gaps in your resume. You say Vietnam. They nod. They don't call back. You don't talk about it. Not because you're tough, because there's no language for it. No one wants to hear about body bags, or what blood smells like when it hits hot dirt, or how you watched a guy bleed out over a chocolate bar he was trying to save. So you don't say anything. You watch the news. They call it a mistake. They say the war was pointless. They say it wasn't a war, just a conflict. You remember the mines, the screaming, the firefights that lasted hours. You remember the guy who walked into the jungle and never came back. A conflict, huh? You laugh. Once. It sounds wrong. You sit on the porch. You light a cigarette. You watch the sun go down. And for a second, you wonder what it's like back in the jungle right now. And for a second, you miss it. Not the war. Just knowing who you were supposed to be. You don't come home from Vietnam. You just get moved. Your body shows up. Your name goes back on mailboxes and driver's licenses. You get a haircut, maybe a job. People shake your hand and say thank you, and none of them know what they're thanking you for. You nod. You keep the replies short. You learn quickly that people want to hear you're okay, not why you're not. Time passes, or it's supposed to. Everyone says it will, that if you give it long enough, the noise will fade. The smells, the flashes, the way your hands go numb every time you hear tyres pop on asphalt. That'll all ease up. It doesn't. It just changes shape. You sleep in your own bed now. Clean sheets, quiet ceiling fan, door you can lock. Still takes hours to fall asleep. You pace sometimes. You check windows. You leave a light on in the hall. You keep a glass of water next to the bed. Always half full. Always in the same spot. You don't know why. You just do. Nightmares don't visit every night, but they never stop entirely. You dream about things that didn't even happen. A patrol that never went out. A buddy who never died. You wake up sweating anyway. You don't scream. You train that out of yourself. Your partner hears the bed creak, asks what's wrong, You say bad dream. They nod. It's always the same answer. Your body breaks in slow motion. Not from bullets, but from posture, packs, heat, trauma. Your knees click. Your back seizes up if you sit too long. Your hearing fades. The VA gives you pills. Some work, some don't. You stop taking the ones that make you feel dull. You'd rather feel broken than empty. The VA asks questions, but not always the right ones. They want to know if you're suicidal. You say no. They ask if you've had flashbacks. You say no. They ask if you drink. You lie. They say adjustment disorder. You say whatever gets you out of the room the fastest. You get used to not talking about it. Not because you've made peace with it. Just because there's nothing new to say. It all happened. You still carry it. No one wants to hear the same story twice. Especially not you. Some days are fine. You go to the store. You mow the lawn. You flip through channels. The silence doesn't bother you. Other days, you hear a firecracker, and suddenly your chest tightens like you're back under mortar fire. You know it's nothing. Your brain knows. Your body doesn't care. You hear people talk about new wars. Iraq, Afghanistan. You don't say much. You just nod when they complain about how complicated it all sounds. You know war doesn't care about clarity. You also know the kid coming back from it probably feels like you did. Like you do. You avoid the news. Too many headlines that don't line up with what you lived. Too many people arguing about things they've never held, never smelled, never fired. You hear someone at the diner say Vietnam was a waste. You stir your coffee and don't look up. You've had this conversation before. You never win it. You carry the war in small ways. You take the long route home. You sit with your back to walls. You notice every exit. You always know where your hands are. You flinch when someone slaps the table too hard. You cry once, in private, after watching a commercial with a song they used to play over the camp PA. You're not sure why it hit. It just did. You stay in touch with one or two guys from your unit. Not many. Most of them drifted, disappeared, or stopped answering. When you talk, it's not about the war. It's about how the tomatoes are growing this year. About bad knees and worse backs. About how damn hot it gets in July. But underneath all of it, there's one shared truth. We were there. That's all that needs saying. Sometimes you visit the wall, the one with the names. You stand there, tracing letters with your finger, not remembering everything about the person, just how it felt when they left. You read the names slowly, like they might say something back. They don't. You still thank them. Civilians talk about moving on, healing. You smile. Let them have that. Let them think that's how it works. You don't move on. You move forward. Every day. Quietly. Without ceremony. Without needing to explain. You live. And that's it. That's the win. That's it. That was Vietnam. Or at least the version most people don't want to talk about. The one that didn't make it into history class. The one where survival wasn't a victory, just a delay. If you made it this far, maybe you understand a little better now why people came back different. Why some didn't come back at all. And why the ones who did never really explained it. Anyway, if this helped you sleep, or made the silence feel less empty, that's enough for me. Hit the buttons if you want, or don't. Either way, thanks for sitting through it. I'll see you next time. Maybe somewhere colder. Maybe somewhere quieter. Good night.